All right, well, we're going to get started tonight. Thanks everybody again for joining us. This is our May 26th Gerber Scout Reservation staff training. Tonight we have a guest speaker, Sarah Shepard, who is going to help us talk about ways that we can better be safe about things in the dining hall, around camp, and just better things to know. She instructs a program called Safe Serve, which some of you may or may not know. But it's gonna be a great conversation about those safety items. But first and foremost, I want to, if everybody could unmute yourself, I'd like us to recite the mission of the summer camp this summer, and I will start us off. So please join me. On the count of three. 3, 2, 1. We, the Gerber
Scout Reservation Camp staff, are dedicated to providing our customers and guests a legendary Scout camp experience while participating in our life-enhancing, year-round camp programs.
We are committed to providing facilities, programs, and camp leadership that will consistently exceed our customers and guests. Our Michigan Scout camps will be safe havens for experiencing the best of the adventures of the values of Boy Scouts of America.
Wonderful. Great work, guys. I hope that we keep continuing to look through our, this mission statement is in the front of each of our leader guides, and also the position description for everybody. So please make sure that we do our best to memorize this, because I'd like us to state this in front of the entire camp when they get there on Sunday night, just before dinner. Okay, so if you could go ahead, mute yourself again. I'm going to stop share and turn it over to our wonderful guest speaker, who's the wife of Don Shepard, our Scout executive, and she's going to take us through some information about Safe Serve training. Sarah?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to start my share again. And start my program. Come on. Let me switch this real quick. Okay, Brian, can you verify you can still hear me okay? Just thumbs up. Brian, can you hear me? All right, thanks so much. Thank you, Ryan, for inviting me tonight to do this webinar with you. As Ryan mentioned before, my husband is Don Shepard, your CEO and Scout Executive for the Michigan Crossroads Council, and he and I moved here from New Hampshire a few years ago, where I was an executive chef and owner of a quite large catering company. And while I was there, I was selected by the National Restaurant Association to be one of the instructor proctors for their Serve Safe program. So what Serve Safe is a program where it teaches people in food handling situations how to serve safe food. So we're going to walk through tonight. Ryan and many of your rangers just recently went through the Serve Safe training, and when they did, they all became what's known as a Serve Safe manager. Now they have their certification, which means they are capable of going in and using the checklists that are available by the National Restaurant Association to help them have a Serve Safe clean kitchen and a Serve Safe clean food handling operation. So we're just going to go through. I have a very short presentation. It won't take long. I'm going to ask you to hold your questions until the end, because I'll likely answer you along the way. And if I don't, then Ryan tells me that he always gives you guys each an opportunity to ask questions at a later time. So the program is based again on the National Restaurant Association Serve Safe program. So I want to talk about how foodborne illnesses occur and what a foodborne illness is, which many of us, you know, we'll giggle in the background and we talk about foodborne illnesses, you know, vomiting and diarrhea, and oh my God, everybody thinks it's so funny. Well, it's not funny when it happens to you, and it's not funny when it happens in a large outbreak, and it has happened many times at scout camps across the United States. So what we want to do this year is minimize the opportunity for a camp like Camp Gerber to have an unsafe foodborne illness breakout. So there's 3 types of unsafe food that you could come in contact with that could cause contamination. One is biological, the other one's chemical, and the third one is physical, as you can see here. So with a biological contaminant, what you have is what we call pathogens. Biological contaminants come from pathogens that come from bacteria, viruses, parasites, or fungi. And many people know what bacteria is. We take antibiotics. We are used to situations where we take something and we get well. Those things can't be done for things such as viruses and fungi. So we're going to go through some safe food handling operation so that you can understand how to eliminate viruses, parasites, and fungi in your organization. The other way that things can cause issues is chemical contaminants. If you look up in the upper right-hand screen here, you see a photograph of this gentleman cleaning, which is great. We want you to clean, but he's actually using glass cleaner around the food. I had a man that worked for me at the Daniel Webster Council for 35 years. He was one of the chief cooks for all of the OA events that happened at Daniel Webster Council's main scout reservation. And he took the class. He actually took Serve Safe, and he completed Serve Safe. He made a very good grade on his test. And then he and I did an OA event just like 7 or 10 days later. And he actually did this right in front of me. He actually took a can of stainless steel cleaner and went out and started cleaning the food areas around the food without taking the food away from the food areas. So it's something that we do that we don't even think of. When we're taking a cleaner or a sanitizer or a polish out, we've got to make sure that we remove the food so that we don't actually, very literally, poison somebody with those things. The other one is physical hazards, and these people don't even think about some of these. One of them, ladies, I will bring up, and I think it'll only be ladies, is fake fingernails, metal shavings, staples, bandages, glass, dirt, natural objects such as fish bones. One of the things that I actually have found in my food before was, quite grossly, animal hair. And it came from in a very large wad, and it was found later to have been part of a mouse that had gotten into the food that I was eating at Golden Corral. So it happens. Physical hazards happen all the time. So we want to be sure that that's not happening at Gerber, so that we can have people not only want to come back, but come back because the food's great and the service is safe. The way food becomes unsafe is these 4 things. First, it's time and temperature abuse. Then we have cross-contamination, poor personal hygiene, and poor cleaning and sanitizing. So I just want to pull over on this just for a second and talk to you just a little bit about the time and temperature abuse and what that looks like. Oops, just slid right into that. I didn't mean to do that, sorry. Time and temperature abuse means that you have taken food out that should be refrigerated or heated to a specific temperature and allowed that temperature to change up or down too much over an extended period of time. Most of the people on this phone call, if you're not the person that handles food specifically, then that won't happen to you. But just in case you get sent to the kitchen, you understand that everything has a time and a temperature for every food that we serve in the kitchen that's called ready to eat or pre-frozen, any kind of food that's got to be refrigerated. Those foods have to stay at 41 degrees or lower. Anything that has to be heated has to get to a specific temperature. In some cases, like with pork, it has to get to 165 degrees. And then it has to stay at higher than 135 degrees the entire time. Now, little bit of more information than you probably need, but just so that you'll understand in case you're in the kitchen and you hear Ryan talking about it, or maybe even your kitchen manager. One of the other ones is cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is when you either put food into the refrigerator incorrectly, where you put the lettuce on the bottom and the meat dripping blood on the top. That's what causes this issue, where you have the blood drops on the lettuce. Another cross-contamination issue is when you are chopping and cutting vegetables. Let's start with, you're chopping and cutting chicken, for instance, and then instead of changing your gloves, changing your knife, and changing your cutting board, you just throw the lettuce on the same cutting board. That's how cross-contamination happens. The other one, poor personal hygiene. This one I have seen happen so many times at scout camp because it's so normal for us to scratch our head or our arm or our nose. And because we're only at scout camp in the summertime and we really don't cook every day of the year, we're not thinking about we're scratching our face whenever we're serving food. Or even, for instance, you have on your gloves, you did everything right, you have on a clean uniform, a clean apron, a clean pair of gloves, and as soon as you walk out, you sneeze into your gloves. If you don't change those gloves, wash your hands and change those gloves, then you're causing a poor personal hygiene situation where food can become unsafe. And then finally, poor cleaning and sanitizing. And we're going to go pretty deep dive on the cleaning and sanitizing. That one's obvious. This man is using a green bucket in the background. The buckets should be used according to the color. And a green bucket should be washing liquid to clean with. Red buckets, of course, are sanitizing liquid. We'll talk about both of those as we get to the end. Poor personal hygiene. Failing to wash your hands is probably the greatest issue that we have. But I will talk first about, and this is one of the things that Ryan and I talked about, probably the worst thing that can happen at scout camp related to poor personal hygiene is you going into the kitchen when you don't belong there. Anyone that is not currently assigned to the kitchen that day should not enter the kitchen for any reason, especially the food prep areas, because the clothing that you have on that you've been wearing that day somewhere else on the camp has contaminants on it that when you bring them into the kitchen, even if you wash your hands, those contaminants are still on your clothes. So you want to be sure that you're not ever coming into the kitchen if you don't work in the kitchen that day. Poor personal hygiene can cause foodborne illnesses also by coughing or sneezing on the food, touching or scratching wounds and then touching the food, or working while you're sick. Touching and scratching the wounds is the one that most people see the most often. But if you see somebody come to work and you think they're sick, too sick that you wouldn't want to eat the food after they've cooked it, then you probably need to let Ryan know, or your camp director know, in which this case is Ryan, to please let that guy know so that he can go home. And there won't be any repercussions for going home because you're sick, because we certainly don't want a virus to break out because you thought you couldn't go home from work. Poor cleaning and sanitizing can cause an issue with pathogens, specifically when the equipment and utensils aren't washed and rinsed and sanitized in between each use. Same thing when contact surfaces aren't cleaned, and when wiping cloths are not stored in sanitizer solution. And if sanitizer solutions are not, I want to get my, I was looking for my, I was going to highlight this because go back. I don't see my, my pencil right now. I had a pencil out. There it is. I want to see if I can highlight this right here. Yep. That's a really big one. Sanitizing solutions are of no use to you if they're not at the right temperature. They're worthless. Sanitizing solutions are of no use to you if you drop dirty dishes into sanitizing liquids. So one of the things that's happened in the past, for instance, when the campers are coming through and they're finished with their dinner and they're stacking their things up and they put their plates here and they put their forks, knives, and spoons in a bucket that's full of sanitizer solution so that it can drop the grime off to the bottom. that's a waste of your sanitizer solution, because it's not doing anything more than hot water would do, because the dishes weren't clean when they went into the sanitizing solution. So it's probable that that solution is not hot enough, and it's also not necessary to use solution for that reason. What you want to do instead, if you want to drop the grime off of the utensils, it's a great idea, but hot soapy water is probably a smarter idea. And in that case, you're talking about using a green bucket and not a red bucket. So I'm going to turn off my annotate now. Let's see. Okay. Oops, we're still annotating. Get off of there, buddy. Get that off of there. Where's my eraser?
You go to view options, annotate, and there's an eraser that's blue right in the middle. You see it, Sarah? Click on view options. We'll toggle at the top, and it'll say annotate. I think she has poor reception. Well, while we're waiting for Sarah to jump back on, I think that she accidentally signed out. Put your name in the chat box if you have any questions right now while we're waiting for her to jump back on, and we'll do our best to answer them. One of the things I'd like to highlight leading up to camp. Oh, maybe she just popped back on.
I am back. I don't know why it dropped me. I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay.
We put some while you're gone.
I got dropped. Okay. Let's see if I can go back to and share. Can you give me share?
Yep, it's a little green button at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, but I'm not seeing it. Hold on. Let's try this again, guys. Sorry.
There you go.
Yep. Yep. So let me clean up my act here and switch my. Come on. Sorry about that, fellas.
You're fine.
Can you see? Unfortunately, you're seeing everything right now. So let me.
Yep, we're seeing.
Yeah, my work screen.
The PowerPoint version of it. So you might want to select a different screen.
Yep. Let's see. There we go. We're back.
All right, just make sure to change your display, change your display settings so that you're
okay, we're getting there.
Swap the
Yep. I'm looking at
perfect.
I'm actually looking at two computers. I have two computers going at the same time so I can see what you guys see. So sorry about that. So the common symptoms of foodborne illnesses are diarrhea, vomiting, fever, nausea, abdominal cramps, and jaundice. The onset times, this is a big one most people don't recognize. It can happen according to the type of food it is. It can happen in 30 minutes, and it can be 6 weeks from now when it happens. One of those that can happen in 6 weeks is Shigella. We'll talk about a little bit about Shigella later, but Shigella is one of the ones that actually
Sorry, guys, we're having technical difficulties today. Hang tight, she'll be right back. She's joining now.
Sorry guys, I don't know what's wrong with the internet here. I have great internet normally.
Oh, you're fine.
Getting there.
You were talking about jaundice when you left.
Ah, boy. See, I got a long ways past you guys then. I'm going to go back to make sure that you've seen what I've seen. So, I'll finish the screen. So, we don't hear a lot about, at Scout Camp, we don't talk a lot about parasites because we don't have a lot of seafood, wild game, and food processed with that. Now, you might get contaminated water there. It's certainly in Michigan, it's possible to have contaminated water, as we all know, because of the flood crisis. There's also a possibility of contaminated water if people are drinking out of ponds and that type of thing. So it might help you to know what the signs of those are, which is, again, it's diarrhea, vomiting, jaundice, and that type of thing. Biological toxins that can happen from certain plants, mushrooms, and seafood. We have to be really careful, especially with our scouts, if they're out and about and they decide that they want to eat something fresh that they found out outside, berries, mushrooms, that type of thing. They can also get a foodborne illness that way. It's not something we would normally serve in the kitchen. Contaminants from chemical sources, cleansers, sanitizers, machine lubricants, and pesticides. Another one is first aid products, accidentally dropping a first aid product in the area that might be a food handling area. Hand lotions, hairsprays. Hand lotions should never be put on your hands after you've washed your hands. Once you've washed your hands, the only thing that goes on your hands is your gloves. Common sources, again, we've talked about these. They're metal shavings, wood, fingernails. Fingernails pull off very easily, especially if there's already a split in one. Bandages, jewelry. One of the things that you can do to eliminate bandages, fingernails, that type of thing from getting into the food is always having on a clean pair of disposable gloves. Food allergens, we probably talk about food allergens more than anything now in food safety, and it's because it seems like now more than ever kids are allergic to everything from peanut butter to oh my gosh, sprouts. So we are very careful to look for the symptoms from food allergens, and those symptoms are nausea, wheezing, and shortness of breath. And the shortness of breath that we're talking about here is actually anaphylaxis. It's actually somebody that gets stung by a bee or somebody that eats peanut butter that can't catch their breath. That's called the shortness of breath, anaphylaxis, that you need to get some help for them immediately. That's why we have EpiPens at all of our camps. Hives and itchy rashes, swelling in various parts of the body, including the face, eyes, hands, and feet, especially in the face, guys, because if their face is swelling, their throat is swelling. vomiting and diarrhea, abdominal pain, and an itchy throat. Those are just some of the symptoms. And what we have, we call these the big 8: milk, soy, eggs, wheat, fish, crustaceans, peanuts, and tree nuts. When we look at wheat over here, specifically wheats, we know that as gluten. Gluten is not only in wheat, it can be cross-contaminant in other things that are grown closely to wheat. Let's say there's a wheat field on the right side of the road and an oat field on the other side of the road. Wheat actually naturally will blow into that oat field. So for those oats to be considered gluten-free, they can't be grown in an area where there's wheat. So just because you're serving oatmeal, don't tell someone that it's gluten-free. Be sure you read the box that says this is gluten-free oatmeal. And it will say it on the box if it was prepared in a gluten-free situation. Another one is tree nuts and peanuts. Both of those are very dangerous to someone who has a food allergen to them. And we don't see much fish or shellfish at Scout Camp, not a whole lot of soy, but we do see milk, eggs, wheat, peanuts, and tree nuts, and we have to be really careful about those. Food handlers can contaminate food by doing these things. Silly. I'm going to start with the one on the bottom that most people are trying to figure out. How in the heck do I spit at the operation? But spitting in the operation comes more often than you think. It's actually somebody that went and tasted something. They didn't like the taste of it. Or sometimes when we sneeze, we spit. Or someone that's chewing gum and they go to spit the gum out. Everything around a specific area, what we usually say is about 18 inches from the person's mouth, is in the spitting zone. So you want to be sure you're not spitting gum out in a trash can that's right next to food that you're getting ready to prepare. Coughing and sneezing into your hand, wearing and touching a dirty uniform, touching a pimple or an infected wound or boil, rubbing on your ear, wiping or touching your nose, running fingers through your hair, ladies, and scratching your scalp. Specifically scratching your scalp, you don't even think about it. You just stand there and you're talking to people, and ladies, we have a really bad habit. We're talking to people, we're running our hands through our hair, pulling it behind our head, putting the rubber band on it, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off. Those are the ways that you can contaminate food because you're not thinking about the fact that your hands, even though you just washed them, shouldn't be going in the food after you've made those actions. Hand washing. Hand washing is the greatest way to keep from having a foodborne illness outbreak. Washing your hands only in the designated sink for hand washing. Hand washing is only done in sinks that have a hand washing station that should be inside your kitchen somewhere. You can wash your hands when you leave your bathroom for 2 reasons. Number one, you don't want people to see somebody that's in a food handling outfit leave the bathroom without washing their hands. But even if you wash your hands in that bathroom, you still have to wash your hands again when you get into the kitchen at the handling sink, hand washing sink that's inside the kitchen. Those sinks should always have soap, paper towels, and a sign above it that says must wash hands before returning to work. As you can see, this little sign right here. And then they also have to have a trash can near them. So be sure that all those things are proper whenever you're setting up your kitchen. Never wash your hands in sinks that are designated for food prep. If it's a sink that you're supposed to be cutting the lettuce in, that's not where you want to wash your hands, specifically because you will be using soap there, and that's a cross-contaminant for the food that will go in that sink afterward. How to wash your hands. Ron says you guys went through a really good training recently that already outlined this, so I'm just going to briefly touch this. Wetting your hands, using running warm water, applying the soap. You should always scrub your hands 10 to 15 seconds vigorously, including your fingertips, under your fingernails, and between your fingers. The greatest carrier of poop in kitchens, guys, is under your fingernails. So if you're not washing between your fingers and under your fingernails, then you're likely carrying foodborne pathogens with you to cause foodborne illnesses. Rinsing your hands and arms thoroughly all the way up to my elbows is where I rinse my hands to. From the top of my fingers to the end of my elbow is how I do that. And then I dry hands using a single paper towel. One of the other things is when to wash your hands. After you use the restroom, touching your body, coughing or blowing their nose, eating, drinking, smoking, chewing gum, or tobacco. First of all, you never do any of those in your kitchen where the food prep area is. Of course, all of our scout camps, and of course we're talking about Gerber tonight, but all of our scout camps specifically do not allow you to chew chew tobacco or smoke tobacco if you're less than 18 years of age. You can actually be terminated for that. So you want to be careful. You don't chew tobacco, you don't chew gum, you don't smoke in the kitchen, drink or eat. You always wash your hands after those things. Handling soiled items. Those soiled items might be anything from a dirty towel that you wiped up something on the floor to an apron that has chicken, raw chicken on it. It also could be your gloves after you've gone and taken the trash out, as you see that very bottom one. So anytime you handle raw meat, anytime you take out the trash, you always want to be sure that you're washing your hands and changing your gloves. They must also wash their hands after handling a service animal or an aquatic animal. We don't have that a lot at Scout Camp, but if you do handle animals, you should always wash your hands and change your gloves. Handling chemicals that might affect your food. Changing a task. Changing your task is big. You go from cleaning the steam table area with a contaminant such as stainless steel cleaner, and then you don't wash your hands before you go over and start serving food. That could easily happen on a night when you have 300 kids coming through to eat, and you were assigned cleaning duties that night, but they get so busy they say, run over there and get on the line. You've got to remember to go wash your hands, put on your gloves, change your apron, pull your hair back into something, and then go get on the line. Be sure that you're always putting something on your beards as well as your head. We'll talk about that later. Leaving and returning to the kitchen and prep area. If you leave the kitchen area, you could have on a clean apron, clean gloves, clean head cover. You go out, you start bussing tables. When you come back, you take your gloves off, you wash your hands, you change your apron, and you start over the process. One of the things that's inefficient actually is for you to change tasks a lot between different individuals. So unless it's a situation where it's really important, you don't ask the person that is working the food line to go out and start working the dish line, for instance, because there's a lot of task changing there, and they would have to change their aprons a lot, which is, in this case, you don't know this yet, we're going to talk about it, but you're actually going to start using disposable aprons. Those are not cheap. So every time you leave, you're going to be using a disposable apron. Leave the kitchen, come back, put on a new disposable apron. So you want to be careful with that. We don't handle money. That one's one that's for my large class that I teach. Using electronic devices. 90% of cell phones have poop on them. 90%. You can laugh about that, but most of us will agree that the one thing we're doing when we're sitting on the toilet in the bathroom is looking at our cell phone. Most people do it, and 90% of phones have poop on them. So you want to be sure that after you've touched your cell phone, you've washed your hands, and then don't retouch your cell phone. Cell phones are not allowed in the kitchen area at any time when you're preparing or serving food at one of our camps. Touching anything that contaminates your hands, which could be another person's hand, another person's back, slap somebody on the back. It could be going out, run out, do a skit, come back in. That's all going to cause contamination of your hands. Hand antiseptics, they're everywhere now. They are not ever to be used in place of hand washing. They do not clean your hands. They sanitize your dirt. That's what they do. So if your hands aren't clean in advance, then you go run in, you use a hand antiseptic. That's not helping if you're a food handler. Hand antiseptics help for situations such as a kid that's sick that sneezes into his hand. It's a good idea for him to use a hand antiseptic to kill any bacteria that might be in that sneeze that he did, but it cannot kill a virus. It cannot kill a parasite, and it will never kill fungi. So you don't use those in the kitchen in replacement for hand washing. And you always want to be sure that it dries before you touch any food or equipment. Otherwise, you're going to give them a chemical contaminant that could cause them to get sick and get food poisoning from a chemical. Single-use gloves. One of the most overdone things that's incorrect with a single-use glove is people that blow into them before they put them on their hands because it's so hard to get them open. So they blow into it first. You never blow into your gloves. You're blowing contaminants into your gloves. You never roll the gloves on, because when you roll the gloves on, the hand that's not in the glove is getting in on the outside surface of the other glove. And you never wash and reuse gloves. Always change your gloves after using them for any task, between tasks. Always do that. And then you want to make sure that you always use the correct glove size. And if you do not have the correct glove size, please ask Ryan to get those for you. They're not expensive. You're not going to be told that you can't have the right glove size. So if you're an extra large or you're a small and all that's in the kitchen is medium and large, please be sure you let Ryan know so that you can get the correct glove size. Change your gloves when they become dirty and torn between tasks after an interruption. Taking a phone call from your cell phone is not the kind of interruption we really want to happen, but it can. After handling meat, seafood, or poultry, and then you have to handle what's called ready-to-eat food. Again, that's lettuce, that's bologna, deli meats, cheeses, things like that. Or if you've had them on for 4 hours and you're still doing the same task, you still want to change them even if you're using them for the same task. Here's the work attire for food handlers. I see my friend down here, Mr. Tickles, that has his beard. We have beard covers. We have hair covers. We want to be sure that we're using those in the kitchen at all times. You never use hair accessories that could become a physical contaminant, ladies, such as barrettes of any type, hair pins. You always, if you use a hairpin, you want to still be sure that your hair restraint covers your hairpin, and never use a hairpin to tie on. For instance, if you're worried about it slipping, don't use a hairpin to hold your hair restraint on, because that hairpin could become a physical contaminant. We never wear false eyelashes when we're working at scout camp, and you always be sure that you take off any kind of, we'll talk about that in a moment, earrings or anything like that. We want to shower and bathe daily before we come to work. One of the things that's probably the hardest to do at scout camp sometimes is get up because you're tired and take a shower before you go to the kitchen. But you're supposed to take a shower before you start your work shift in the kitchen, and always put on a clean uniform every day. That's including your aprons. And we are going to be using disposable aprons this year at Camp Gerber. So you always want to dispose of the apron you used the day before, or when they become soiled, or when changing tasks. Another thing is you never wear your street clothes or bring your street clothes, your purse, your backpack, that type of thing into areas where there's food preparation. Working attire, you never wipe your hands on your apron. When you wipe your hands on your apron, you contaminate your apron. So, and I find myself, I do that in my own kitchen, and then I remind myself, oh, I just got dead chicken all over my apron. You need to remember to only wipe your hands on something. First of all, remove your gloves, wash your hands, dry them, put on clean gloves. Never wipe your hands on your apron. This is a big one that most people don't know, and this is a rule at Camp Gerber this year. You can never wear jewelry of any sort, which is watches, rings, bracelets, including your medical bracelet, any kind of earrings, any kind of nose rings, any kind of tongue rings, tongue studs, whatever you want to call those, into the kitchen at Camp Gerber. All of that comes out. Those are all possibilities for physical contaminants in the food, and you don't want that to happen on your watch. So you want to remove all of that unless you're married and you have a single metal wedding band that you wear on your left ring finger. Otherwise, if your wedding band has diamonds in it, you need to remove it. Diamonds are a pathogen's best friend. Everything hides around the little increments, the little setting that holds your diamonds into your band. So you can't wear those into the kitchen. Another thing is fingernails, false fingernails. No false fingernails at Camp Gerber if you're in the kitchen. So you're going to keep your fingernails short and clean. Remember, fingernails are a great place to store poop. So we want to be sure that we keep your fingernails short and clean. Never wear false fingernails when you're working at the camp, in the camp kitchen at Gerber or any of the other Scout camps, and never wear fingernail polish. Fingernail polish is just a cover for the dirt that's under your fingernails. So please, no fingernail polish, short and clean fingernails only. Food handlers can only eat, drink, smoke, chew gum, or tobacco in designated areas. And you always want to make sure that you're using one of the drinking cups that comes from your own kitchen. We cannot bring outside drinks into the kitchen at Camp Gerber. No Monster drinks because you need a caffeine boost. No diet sodas. No Starbucks espresso drinks. You can only drink what's provided from Camp Gerber from the time you get there that day, and you bring your drink in. You go and you get your drink. You bring your drink into a break area of some sort and you leave it there. You never bring it into the kitchen for any reason because it touches your mouth. It becomes a contaminant. Something touches it, then that food itself or that surface itself is contaminated. So we never bring outside food or drinks in. The prep areas, the working areas, are areas that are used to clean dishes. Staff must report illnesses. That doesn't mean just if you're sick. Staff needs to report illnesses if they think someone else is sick. So before you come to work, if you have any kind of diarrhea, coughing, vomiting, yellowed skin, which is jaundice, your eyes are watery, you have hives of any sort, please be sure to see your supervisor to discuss whether or not you should be moved to another area or should be asked to stay home that day. The things that can happen are norovirus, hepatitis A, Shigella, Shiga toxin, which is that produces E. coli. We've heard of that one. It happens specifically with raw beef. Salmonella typhi, which is the one that happens most often. I've had salmonella twice. In both cases, I received salmonella from a kitchen that was obviously not being cleaned very well. And then the non-typhoidal salmonella, which is most common type of salmonella. Watch for these signs. We just went through those. Excessive trips to the bathroom, vomiting, yellowing of the skin, chills, cold sweats, and nasal discharge and sneezing. The handling dishes. You guys that work back in the back that never handle the food, but you're always the ones either helping to serve the food to the plate. Let's say we do some sort of family service and you help set that up, or you're the ones that are working back in the dish area. You never touch the edges of a plate. You never touch the cups themselves. You never touch the ends of a fork, knife, or spoon. You always use tongs, and never reach a cup inside the ice machine and use a cup to move ice into the cup, or your hands. You never use your hands. Never use a glass. At the bottom, you can see in the ones that say incorrect, this person has their finger on the edge of the plate. They also have no glove on. This person is stacking. I've seen this happen at Scout Camp 1,000 times. Stacking cups under his chin, holding them again. He has no gloves on. He's wearing a rubber apron, which tells you he comes from the dishwashing area. So he already has contaminants all over his apron. And then he also has them stacked where he's touching it with his chin. All of those could cause cross-contamination of some sort. This person's fingers are on the tines of the fork. This person is touching the bagel with their fingers. Again, no gloves on these two people. And then this guy thinks he's smart. He's putting the ice in the glass with his hands. All of those are they're pathogens waiting to happen to your food. When you're cleaning the trash areas, usually in every prep area, there's going to be a trash can next to that prep table. Never set the trash on the table or even on the floor if you can help it in that area when you're taking it out. Lift it out of the trash can and take it outside. Close the lid of it or close the top of it with your hands physically, as you see this young man has. Never set it on the table and take it outside if you want to knock the top of it. If you do want to knock the top of it, you can put it on the floor, but you are spreading germs to your floor then, and you have to do special sanitizing things to your floor. If you already sanitize your floors, then that's fine. As long as you're mopping and sanitizing your floors, it's okay to put your trash on the floor. But most people don't sanitize. They usually just mop. This is how you clean and sanitize. One of the things that I told you about, my friend that was an OA cook for all those years, he always went to an area with a sanitizing bucket and started completely washing the area. If you do not scrape and remove food from the area first, you're wasting your sanitizer. If you don't wash it first, scrape it, wash it, and rinse it, your sanitizer can't do its job. Sanitizer is of no use to you if your surface was not cleaned in advance. Sanitizer does not sanitize dirt. It sanitizes surfaces. So always be sure to clean it first and then allow the surface to air dry. That goes for you guys that wash the dishes as well. When they come through the dishwasher and they end up on the outside of the dishwasher, they have to air dry, never put dishes away, or use a hand towel to dry dishes that have gone through the sanitizer's wash in the dishwasher. Here's those steps with a 3-compartment sink. You're going to always scrape the item first, wash the item in the sink with a scrubber in the first sink, rinse the item in the second sink, sanitize the item in the third sink. All sanitized items have to stay in the water for at least 30 seconds. You can't just dunk them and move them. They have to stay in the water for 30 seconds, then move them, and then they're air dried from that surface. When you're storing tableware and equipment, you should store them, first of all, 6 inches from the bottom of the ground. That means any kind of shelving that you have in your storage areas has to measure 6 inches from the ground for you to be able to store any kind of tableware and equipment on them. Silverware should be always stored upside down in the racks. Glasses stored upside down. Cups stored upside down. Even if you have covers for those tableware and equipment storage shelves, you should still store all of these things upside down, because when you go to serve from these, you shouldn't be handling the tines of a fork whenever you're handing out forks. You should only be handling the handles of the fork. Same thing with the cup and the glasses. We just talked about that.
Sarah, can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Flip back to that slide. So a lot of times in the past, one of the things that our team has done is we would take the bucket of silverware and dump it onto a flat rack, and we would run it through the machine twice. This summer, we have these baskets in the kitchen to put the silverware in to run it through the machine. So right. I just want to make sure everybody knows that that's the process that we're using to wash the silverware.
Running it, laying it on a flat rack. I'm sorry, laying it on a flat rack will not work.
The contents that are on the silverware will then be able to be removed efficiently compared to it all stacked on top of itself on a flat rack. And it still has to go through the machine twice, but it'll clean much faster and more efficient and save us time making sure that every piece of utensils is clean.
Absolutely.
So then after you go through the machine and let those items dry in those baskets, we would make sure that we wash the white containers, run those through the machine, and just after we've done the silverware, so those two items can dry at the same amount of time. And when they're dry, then we can put them in the white containers and put them back in the storage areas. But I just want to make sure everybody was familiar with that, so that way, if you are sticking around or helping out the crew in the kitchen or during some type of event, you all now know that by just dumping them into the flat rack does not do us good for cleaning utensils.
Yep, that won't work. That is not clean. Thank you. That was a very good point to bring up. Another point that we'll bring up here also is what we talked about earlier. When they come up to drop their put their dish in the dish tray and they drop their silverware into sanitizer buckets, remember that bucket's going to change. That's now, from now on, they're going to put their utensils into hot soapy water. They're not going to put it, you're wasting your sanitizer. So they're going to put it in hot soapy water, and then you're going to take it from that and you're going to go ahead and start washing it in these containers that work for your dishwasher, like Ryan just mentioned. And then once they dry, you'll put them in your white containers for the next service. Here we go, cleaning and sanitizing the operation. This is for after the dishes are all done and everybody's getting ready to clean up. You never use your hand washing sink, your food prep sink, or your dishwashing sink for your mops. You never pour mop water into a toilet. Those are things that actually cause backups. They also cause issues with splatter onto the floor. Those are not sanitary operations, and so you want to be sure that you're not doing that. You should have a sink that's called your mop sink or utility sink that's in your kitchen, and that's where you want to use, that's what you want to use to fill your mop buckets and to drain your mop buckets. Also, be sure you never use the mop sink, the utility sink, as a place to wash a dish or your hands. Pest control. Okay, that's the end of the show, and I will stop my share there real quick. And Ryan, I guess you're gonna want to unmute or what?
All right. So at this time, if you have a question regarding any of the information that we covered, go ahead and type your name in the chat box, and we'll try and capture any questions you have related to any of the information that Sarah has shared with us. Okay, Nefarious, you have a question.
All right. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So as the dining hall director on the Cub Scout side, I have a few concerns about a few things, especially because it sounds like we're going to be doing things a lot differently than we did last year, as it concerns to cleanliness and stuff like that. One concern I had is a specific sink for hand washing in the kitchen, because the Evans Dining Hall does not have that. It has the dishwashing sinks, the like wash, rinse, sanitize sinks, and then it has bathrooms. So I'm wondering what you would like me to do with having servers for serving the food, washing their hands, like what sink you want me to use.
I'll take a look at it tonight. I'm heading up there tonight after I run down to Lansing and pick up my car. So I'll take a look and I'll get back to you.
All right.
Just from my perspective on that, I happen to have connections, and I'll make sure you get a hand washing sink.
All right.
I believe isn't there a sink behind the wall that's in the center of the kitchen area?
You're talking about that wall that's in the middle of the kitchen?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's a sink there. I know that there's like the giant milk container that holds the milk. There's a fridge. I don't think behind the wall there's a sink.
I'll take a look, Nefarious. There should be a sink because the health department would have nailed us on that prior to. So
all right,
we'll just have to take a look. I know that there's one there, so we'll just have to figure out where it is. And if there isn't, we'll make sure to consider.
All right, cool. Another question I had was with clothing contamination, because how it's worked in the past on Cub side, since I don't really have like a kitchen staff designated to me, a few minutes before the campers get to the dining hall, we have staff members volunteer to serve and stuff like that. So, and they're coming from working at areas and stuff like that. So are we going to be using the disposable aprons for that? And or are there other ways that we're going to prevent clothing contamination?
We'll be using disposable aprons for the servers, and we just got to make sure that they're wearing gloves and have a head or hair net. And another thing that's going to be big for us this summer, which will be a big change, is just making sure to take off your toccasin and set it aside, just so that in case something happens, one of those beads or something, or something happens, we don't want to have to throw all that food away. Because once it gets contaminated, you basically have to throw the entire tray away. You can't just scoop it out and what have you. So yeah, we're just trying to be a little healthier, a little smarter about our operations in the dining hall.
All right, cool. That's good. And then one other thing was with like handling cups and such, because I know last year we would set the cups out on the tables and whoever was there first would just set them out. And so that necessarily wasn't the dining hall director. And I know that every time they never had gloves on. So for that case, would we just put gloves on if you're setting out the cups at the tables before the kids get there?
We should have gloves on for any operation that has anything to do.
All right.
Yeah, gloves, absolutely. Ron, you can jump in here, but I can't imagine any operation where you wouldn't want them using gloves to set things out.
The only thing that we would have is that when the scout waiters come in to set up their tables.
Oh yeah, that's not on us.
That's not enough. So it's basically any employees that are handling any food or utensils or cleaning or anything. As employees, we're responsible to wear gloves. The campers and the adults, they're on their own. But when you see somebody that's like carrying a stack of cups and they've got it leaned up next to their chin or under the armpit or whatever, we just got to remind them, hey, why don't you not carry so many cups so you don't drop them? It's always a good thing to say, and that way you're not, they don't feel like they're being picked on. Just tell them that, hey, I just want to make sure you don't drop them, and we have to rewash them. So
yeah, and I'm sure that I'm gonna have some sort of talk during staff week with all of the staff on Cub Scout side, especially like any that aren't here for this video chat meeting, so I can at least reiterate on any of this stuff that they may have missed, so that I can tell people like, hey, when you're serving the dining hall for a meal, you need to keep all of these things in mind when you're serving, so that we can keep the place clean.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I'll just reiterate on that when I have my talk.
Absolutely, and we can get some poster board, and you can make some posters if you want on your free time.
Oh, that would be great.
In the kitchen. So.
And just a reminder, the things that they don't think about. The things that they don't think about are jewelry, false fingernails, fingernail polish. All of those should be a good sign for you this year because you're making changes. I'd put a sign out that specifically says, "Ladies, no fingernails."
And what I might even do is every time before a meal, I'll have a small little pep talk with my servers and say, hey, you need to make sure that you're not wearing any of this stuff for any of you, you need to make sure that all this and kind of like running a quick checklist for them for anything that they forget, and then reminding them of things that they need to keep in mind while they're serving, such as not touching their hair or scratching their arm or anything like that. Making sure that their hands are not touching anything except for the utensils that are touching the food.
Yeah, make a game out of it. Have them, make sure that they, self-check each other. If somebody sees something,
Exactly.
maybe come up with some silly name or something to call them out on or something, or remind them. Cool. All right, Nefarious, do you have any other questions?
I think that was everything that I had in mind, so I'm all good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tickles, I see you had a question.
I missed the first 20 minutes or so of the meeting by accident. I know these are recorded. Where can I find the recordings to watch the previous?
Yep, they'll be, I'll publish it probably on Tuesday, but it'll be up on, if you go to Michigan Crossroads Council YouTube channel. And click on their videos. It'll be up there as the May staff training. Okay. Was there somebody else in there that had a question that?
I don't see any other in the chat box.
Yeah, I thought there was an 801 number or somebody was trying to talk in when we were talking with Nefarious. All right. Well, last call for any other questions for Sarah.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for joining us and helping us be smarter about keeping our camp a safe environment and helping remind us of how important the little things are in making sure that we have a legendary summer camp this summer.
Outstanding. And thank you guys for all that you do. I really appreciate what you're doing there at Scout Camp. It's the best place to be in the summertime. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, I've got one more thing before we depart. So our next step is summer camp, my friends. Make sure that you have finalized all of your paperwork and work right, and to make sure that you have a conversation with your area director and copy the program director with any dates or when you can arrive at camp, any dates that you foresee being gone, and any other questions you have. Okay. Otherwise, directors, we will see you 9 a.m. on June 5th. We will be hosting a voluntary campsite setup on June 7th, 8th, and 9th. Friday night at 7 p.m. We're going to have a big movie night, popcorn in the dining hall. So come out and watch a movie, have some fun. And then on Saturday and Sunday is all devoted to setting up canvas. Again, this is voluntary, so I know a lot of the staffers, some of them have to end up staying in school till the 14th. So we're just trying to put together a weekend opportunity. We can knock all this out, get it done, have some fun, and be ready for summer camp this summer. Program staff, we'll see you 9 a.m. to noon on June 10th. So check-in is from 9 to noon on June 10th. Otherwise, if you're not able to make it by then, make sure you let someone know, either your area director and copied the program director for your camp. And if you have any other further questions, we'll just run through the channels. We'll start with Charlie's iPhone. Anything before we go, Charlie?
When are contracts getting sent out?
Charlie, are you a CIT?
Don't know.
No?
I don't know.
Charlie, you moved in the trading post, correct?
Charlie, email your program director and we'll Dan, and we'll get that squared away for you right away, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it for me.
Okay. The 734-812-5030. If you called on the phone, *6 gets you unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay then. Michigan Crossroads Council, right?
Yep. You talking about the half video?
Okay. Okay. Hey then, cause basically, I'm pretty sure I got an email from them, and I accidentally deleted it. So could you send it again?
Sure. Could you type? Oh, you're on the phone.
Yeah, I'm on.
What is your email address? Or what is your name?
Joseph Bertrand.
How do you spell your last name?
Bertrand.
Okay.
You got that?
All right. Yep. Joseph, we'll dig you up. We've got your stuff. What was it that you were looking for?
Pretty much. Pretty much the same thing as Charlie, our contract. So basically, we could like do those properly and basically just like confirm how much we're being paid.
Yep. We'll get it over to you.
All right. Thank you.
Dan and I are working on that after we get off this call.
All right. I'm muting now.
All right. Thank you, Joe. All right. 231-557-1644.
No questions for me.
Great. Claw.
There we go. No, I'm good. I don't really have anything to bring up.
Awesome. All right, Eric Tanhill.
Yeah, I got one for the departure date. When is that, like what day and then what time?
It'll be July 30th.
Oh my God. What? I haven't eaten, so yes. And my everything is sore, including my throat.
Eric, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, July 30th.
That's okay.
When we get closer, I'll have to give you a specific time.
When is that Explorer Scout activity? After camp's over or whatever, they go like kind of like.
Oh, we have to plan that.
Oh, okay.
The venturing stuff, yeah, we have to plan that. We'll plan that over the summer.
Okay, and then I know Don Riddle's we were talking about like skits or whatever with like cowboys, ninjas, or clowns. Like what type of costumes do you want me to get? Like, do you want me to get all three or just the cowboy? Or
So Eric, what's going to happen is I'm sending out an email tonight with a basic list of things that people will need for camp, including like basic necessities like clothes, toiletries, and stuff like that. And in it will be included a program list of things that you need to get. So like everyone will have to get like a cowboy hat for cowboy night, something for like ninja night, whether that's one of those like, you know, those polyester like face masks or cloth that you see around, like the really tight scarves kind of thing. Okay. And then like just some crazy wig or something like that for carnival night. Basically, it'll be in an email. You'll find it tonight.
Okay.
But I would suggest be creative. I mean, this is just part of making the experience, right? It's kind of like the whole Disney aspect. Everybody's on stage once they leave the staff area. And so, some ways to help expand and make the program more exciting is, by doing some of those things. I would suggest for all of you to maybe go to the nearest like Goodwill or secondhand store and look around there. You can find awesome costuming for like pennies on the dollar. You could find an old cowboy hat at Goodwill probably for 50 cents, or even $2. But it's all stuff, and we want you to bring your own stuff because that way you have a better handle on it. And honestly, it would be really tough for us to, provide that type of stuff for the entire staff. And then everybody looks a little different. If we provided everything, then everybody would look the same. So be creative about it, but it's kind of up to you. And it doesn't have to be really elaborate. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Sure, I'm prepared.
And what about cash? How much cash do they suggest to bring?
Eric, any other questions?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure if you heard me. I said, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was prepared.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. All right, Eric Smith.
Is it okay if I show up on the 9th? Is that a big deal or?
Yeah, anybody that wants to come up for that weekend is free to come up. That's when we're going to put all the canvas out. We encourage as many people to join us as we can. Please, we'll get a link out for sign-up so we know who's coming and who's not coming. Dan will send that out. But if you can come, it would be a big help. So.
Okay. I admit when I said that, I meant I may have to show up slightly earlier because I may not be able to show up on the 10th because car issues or driving issues. I don't know if I'd show up in time for that or not, but I can look into it.
Okay, well, you can come either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. You don't have to come Friday night. So.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks. Heidi. Heidi Erlinger, any questions?
I don't think her mic is working.
No,
okay.
I'm good. Sorry.
Ah, she figured it out.
There you go.
I figured it out. It wasn't working. No, I don't have any questions. I'm good.
All right. Outstanding. Leah.
Nothing at the moment. Thank you.
Wonderful. Matt, shoot.
I was kind of told this or not. I'm not uncertain. But if I wanted to bring my bike up there, could I?
Yeah, you can bring your bike. Just make sure you bring a helmet.
Sweet. No other questions.
All right. Nefarious.
I'm all good, thank you.
Nolan.
No questions.
Tina.
Nope.
Phaser.
One question. How often do we have to wear our polo shirts this summer?
So polo shirts will be worn on the first day of programming. So for Boy Scout side, or for Scouts BSA side, it'll be all day Monday. And also for Friday Fireball.
Okay.
Actually, to clarify just a little bit, you have to wear a staff polo every day. That's your staff uniform, but you have to wear this year's staff polo on check-in for the troop guides and the rest of the staff, and then also on Friday Fireball, and also preferably on checkout of that day if you can. But
same goes for the Cub side. So the first full, when they come to check in, and the first full program day, and then as well. Great question though. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sasquatch.
Okay, so since Cub side normally starts later than boy side, what day should we show up for staff week?
Rocket, Andrew, and I are working on the staff training schedule right now. Give me 2 seconds. I can answer that.
I'm pretty sure it should be the first week that Scout side has campers.
Correct.
So like normal. Okay.
Yep. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 18th is the first day for program staff on the Cub side.
Okay. Question for Rocket.
Yeah, go on.
Since it's around the world, what kind of costume should we have for like evening program?
All right, so for evening program, you can really have anything. I think the area themes I have written down tentatively are. I can just post it in the Superintendent Chief group chat.
Okay. That's about it.
Awesome. Scrunch.
No questions from me.
Tickles.
I already went.
Oh, sorry. The phone number is 734-812-5030. Okay, moving on. Last number I see, 801-726-5933. Hello? All right, we'll move on.
There, hello, hello.
Oh, there you go.
I finally got it unmuted. This is Jacques. I have to sign some documents on June 4th at 1 o'clock in Utah. I'll start driving right after that. I probably won't get into camp till the late afternoon, early evening of the 7th. That's the quickest I can get there.
I had you down for coming in on the 8th, so that's yeah, we talked about that. That's fine.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to let you know I wasn't going to be able to make it by the 5th.
Yep. No, we got that under control.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Charlie, you remembered a question.
Huh?
The guy from Salt Lake, if he had a question. Looks like you lost the signal.
Charlie,
Yes.
you had a question?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear. I got the wrong polo size. Is there gonna be like replacements?
You can
that
exchange it when you get back up to camp.
All right, cool. That's what I needed to know.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just don't wear it.
I won't.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, I'll jump over to Rocket first.
Whoops. All right, so just a couple of things. make sure that you guys, at least on the Cub Scout side, are turning in your order list for area directors. Superintendent Chiefs, it's tentative on our next meeting. I think it's been going to be rescheduled. And stay classy out there.
All right. Thank you, Rocket. Riddles.
Just a quick reminder, guys, even if you have sent me time off requests, make sure you resend them. I get a lot of emails and there's a lot of traffic, so I want to make sure I get it from everybody. I'll also be sending out probably a Google Doc that I can have you guys edit to as well, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, guys, make sure you remember about the voluntary campsite setup. The more people we get there, the better it's going to go and the more set up we are going to be for camp. Otherwise, I'm good. Thank you guys for being here.
Awesome.
I have one more thing. Phaser just commented in the chat. When do Cubs CITs need to show up? Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Rocket. One thing I will comment on that is that even if you're planning to be available all summer, just make sure to send us a note again. Copy your area director, copy your program director, and just remind us that you're 100% on board for either the full summer or the times that you have off, because we're just trying to make sure we're all squared away and ready to go. All right. Other than that, everybody have a great rest of the Memorial Weekend, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.